Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode number 10 of the Men in Orange and Black, your bi-weekly fan center podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. This is a special late night edition because Steve and I are running on fumes after the Penguins game.
Woo!
But with my good buddy Steve Murray, I am Matt Craig. We're happy to have you with us. Steve, how you doing, man? Are you fueled or are you running on fumes like I am? Because I am definitely on it right now, bro.
Yeah, I'm running on fumes. We're not recording on Super Bowl Sunday.
No, absolutely not. No. Way too much going on Super Bowl Sunday for the two of us. That's for sure. Steve, did you know the Flyers made history this last couple of weeks?
Do we have to talk about that?
Well, I mean,
well, we are on a podcast.
We are on a podcast. It is to talk about three consecutive. Yeah, it wasn't exactly ideal to be shut out 3 consecutive times.
Well, to be fair, it has happened before, but in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I remember that. You remember that.
I sure do.
That was not a fun time.
That was not a fun time, especially a team that we knew that we could beat. But back then it was just, that wasn't in the cards. We just didn't have any offense whatsoever. Kind of sounds a little familiar. But anyway, as we turn that page, we'll get into that, obviously. Why don't we take a look at the overall record of the Flyers here? How about that with the transition?
You have a whole sound effect board, and you do that with your mouth? What the hell?
How about that? We could do it that way?
If that's how you want to do it.
Or we could... There you go. We can
Even
do it
better.
There we go.
Imagination.
24, 26, and 7. 55 points. This is coming off, of course, of the Penguins' win tonight, 3-2.
It was not a beatdown.
Not a beatdown.
But hey, we got a glimpse of the future. No Crosby, no Malkin.
It was wonderful.
Delicious.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
That's what I want to see more of.
Yeah. Exactly.
End my long nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. For a long, long time. Minus 30, as you can see, between goals scored, goals allowed. We're down on the power play. Uptick on the penalty kill. Pretty happy about that. Up half a percentage point. So that's improving. Steve, your thoughts so far as we head into the Four Nations break of officially, where we find the Flyers here at 24, 26, and 7.
This break comes at an absolutely good time.
Oh,
That's the long and short of it. The team is they've gotten a little more offense the last couple games, but they were dried up. A few games before that, as we'll get into. And for Michkov, obviously, it's good to kind of rest, reset for the stretch run. Some other guys, I think, Travis Konechny's one, I think would have benefited had he been on a break, but now he's going to go play for Team Canada, which I'm not so thrilled about now. But, other guys will get a nice break, so it'll be good for them to take 2 weeks off and just rest up.
Yeah.
Get healthy. We got some banged up bodies too. We got a guy who's itching to play who hasn't been able to because of stupid paperwork.
Yeah.
So the break comes at a good time.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So yeah, I mean it's been a long season, but obviously a very condensed season. As a result of that, we only have about, I think it's less than, just looking at that was at 57 games. So out of 82, you're looking at 35 to go.
No.
Am I right on that? 57.
57. So you'd have
82.
82 is 22, 20,
25 games left.
25 games.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. 25 games left. So yeah, I mean, so the maximum amount of points would be 50. So that's the maximum. You're just looking ahead there. So if we win every single game, we would get at 105 points. And I don't think that's in the cards this year, but
no,
I don't think
you
so.
probably need maybe high 80s
to
get in, which is going to be, so you'd have to get 30 points.
Probably have to win 2/3 of the remaining games in order to just qualify, it sounds like.
That's going to be tough.
Yeah.
And it's going to be tough because there's your standings board up to the minute.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. You have an asterisk between the Islanders and the Sabres. Why do you have that, Steve?
They are playing right now.
There
we are not waiting up even longer for those stupid games to finish.
No.
You look at this and you deal with it.
Like we said, we're running on fumes, for God's sakes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's such fumes that the Flyers one is actually wrong. That should be 24-26.
6 and 7.
Yeah.
Which is fine. But you got the number of points right. Yeah.
The point total is right. So if you look there, we are 6 points out of the second wild card spot, but with 6 teams to jump. That is a tall order.
Yeah, not exactly ideal.
No,
in particular, it's going to be tough sledding, but I think we knew this going in. If you were a regular listener to our podcast, we give a sane take on the Philadelphia Flyers. Sane. And it wasn't exactly ideal. This is a rebuilding team, no question about it. And it showed, I think, this over the last couple of weeks with their play. It's been a tough sled. But, like you said, I think you're right. Four Nations comes at the right time. It's time for a majority of the team to kind of just get that rest. Luckily, we only have, was it Sanheim, Ersson, Konechny, Ristolainen.
I think that's it.
Yeah, and with Torts being an assistant.
Well, that doesn't count.
Really, but four players. That's good. I mean, the rest, everybody else, kind of just goes. You know what? Okay, you're off for 2 weeks. Yep.
The one guy who is playing that I'm actually happy about, I think, is Ersson.
Yeah,
because he's coming into this break playing pretty well.
He had a great game tonight against Pittsburgh.
He did have a great game tonight. And he's the type of guy who it seems like the pattern is when he gets to play regularly is when he plays well.
Mm-hmm.
And so hopefully he'll get a lot of work in with Team Sweden. And so he'll kind of be still regular when we come back.
Yeah.
As opposed to sitting out on vacation for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the goaltending situation is for Sweden. You would have figured Markstrom probably would have been the starter, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I think I did hear that Markstrom was like dinged up a little bit, but
Ersson's the replacement for him. So I don't know if that means Ersson's going to start or who else they have.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that all pans out. But what an honor for him to play, right? I mean, that's tremendous for him. Yeah, for sure. So why don't we go ahead and review the 2 weeks that was. And it wasn't all that pretty as we'll go through it, but it did start off
good.
Started off very good. 4-2 against the Devils at home in a first game of a home series. Bobby Brink, Joel Farabee before he was traded. 2-0 looks really good. Got out to a 3-1 lead or 3-0 lead, I should say. Then Dougie, you're right. It's Doug Hamilton. For God's sakes. Yeah.
Doug Hamilton.
Yeah.
And in fact, he's so annoying. He should just be D Hamilton. We're not even going to give him a full name. It's just his first initial. D.
How do you have like Dougie as your first name? I don't get that. Anyway, Timo Meier though makes it 3-2, a little bit late with about a little less than a minute and a half to go, but then Lawton with the empty netter, 4-2 win. For the Flyers. 1 for 2 on the power play. They kill off 0 for 3 on the power play for the Devils, which was really, really good. Solid win at home, off to a good start, right, Steve, in that regard? Yeah.
I mean, that continued the trend from the previous block of games that we covered.
Yeah.
They had been playing well, and they got a good result out of it.
Yeah.
And then things fell apart.
Then yes, in a very horrible and disgusting way, because of course you make the return trip to Devils, and the Devils shut us out 5-0. Jake Allen, obviously with the shutout, faced 24 shots. Flyers, instead of a couple power play goals, they went 0 for 4. Devils 2 for 3 this time around. Yeah. It was not pretty. 4 goals given up in the second period. So again, that second period continues to be the problem child. for the Flyers all season long.
I wonder, because I think the hit happened after maybe the first goal, because they scored early in that second period, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I think Tippett gets injured.
Yeah.
And then a couple more goals are scored after that. I just wonder how much of that played into. I said last episode that I wanted 2 points out of the two Devils games. So actually, between the two, they got the 2 points I wanted.
Yeah.
Less than great showing in the second game, but you lose Tippett midway through the second period, and
you're line juggling at that point.
You're in New Jersey, and who likes that? So you weren't going to hold this team down. You weren't going to beat them 3 straight times.
Yeah, exactly. They're
game
too good. They're too
in
good.
isolation. This game didn't bother me all that much because I'm like, all right, it's a clunker. You had been playing okay.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
The next one, though, does bother me because it's against the Islanders at home, and it's a return trip the next night, very next night, and the Islanders shut you out 3-0 at home. And again, not much going on. 23 shots on net. 12 shots.
Low event game, as Torts likes to say.
Only 3 shots in the third period, though. That's concerning.
Yeah.
That was very concerning.
Well, you have to remember, though, that's a back-to-back with travel.
Very true.
Very
true.
And the Islanders play a tough defensive game. They're big, strong guys. I'm not, again, in isolation, it wasn't concerned, but it was the trend that started.
Yeah.
And yeah. Sorokin's a problem for us.
Oh yeah,
we're tough. He's tough for us to beat.
Yeah,
for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a good goaltender, but I don't think the stats he puts up against us are not like what he does the rest of the time.
Yeah.
So I don't get it.
Yeah.
It's Steve Valiquette, but it's still.
Do you think
score a goal or two on him?
Do you think also that maybe the problem was that there were too many perimeter shots? Or was not enough traffic in front of them? Or
absolutely.
Yeah.
That was one of the problems they've had, I think,
over the years.
Through that stretch there was they were not getting good shots. And when I say good shots, I mean from the center of the ice with traffic and, sticks in the way. And it was too many clean.
Yeah.
That the Islander game, if I remember, this is because a lot's happened kind of in the interim with the trade and all. The Islander game, I just remember there wasn't a whole lot going on.
Yeah,
they weren't getting to the net, and I think that's part of the problem.
That was part of the problem. Yeah,
yeah,
that makes sense in that regard. Yeah, it only continued. Then, of course, we did the emergency podcast after the Islanders game because then we had, of course, the Joel Farabee and Morgan Frost trade. And there's been some back and forth on that. It's like, okay, well, you're giving up Farabee. You signed him for a multi-year contract, and so you're giving him up. You have Morgan Frost, who's been, instead of hot and cold, he's been mostly cold, I would argue. He hasn't exactly shown to be this highly skilled forward that he was supposedly advertised to be. I kept thinking to myself, even after that trade, it's like, I didn't, a lot of people seem to like him. You can be a nice guy all you want, but I mean, if you don't show up most of the time, what are you doing? You can be popular in the locker room, but if you're not doing anything.
Well, we talked about it.
We did talk about
in the emergency pod. He would be invisible. If you're not scoring, you got to be able to do other things to kind of make up for it.
Yeah.
And he just would be completely invisible. As we said, the perfect example was he was on a line with Michkov and Tippett, and Michkov and Tippett were racking up some points, and he was nowhere to be found.
Yeah, it was MIA. Yeah.
They were scoring in spite of him.
Yeah.
So you can't be that type of player. And he and Farabee both have a goal now with Calgary, but you chalk that up to you go to a new team, you're going to have some life injected. You're going to make an impact right away, but we'll see long term.
Yeah,
that trade is not for this season. That's for beyond.
No question. Yeah, so that's setting the
no point
Flyers
harping on it at this point.
Yeah, exactly. So after the trade was done, you're obviously shorthanded. You're going to Colorado, and for the
11-7
third consecutive time,
out of necessity. Yeah.
you're shut out 2-0, and again, both goals second period by Colorado. Nate McKinnon, power play goal. As part of that, you were dominated in the faceoffs. Avalanche won 63% of the faceoffs against us. Not exactly ideal.
They're a good team.
They are a very good team for a very good reason. They are making runs.
That game, though, they actually didn't play
all that
bad defensively.
Right.
Outside of giving up that power play goal, and the other goal, I think, was a turnover.
Yeah.
Outside of a few mistakes that they capitalized on, they actually played pretty well defensively that game. It's just the offense.
Just was nowhere to be found. Yeah.
No Tippett.
Yeah.
You just lost Farabee and Frost.
Yep.
So you're down on the forwards. You're playing a line with 3 AHL guys.
Mm-hmm.
You're playing with 7 defensemen.
Mm-hmm.
That the offense was.
It was a mess. Yeah.
Not unexpectedly missing.
Yeah.
In that game as well.
Yeah, exactly.
But they actually played, I thought, a good game.
One thing I forgot to mention about the Islanders game, and correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, was that the game that Michkov was benched as well.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
We did fail to mention that, so we should probably quickly mention that a little bit. Of course, Torts and Michkov had a, let's just say, animated conversation on the bench in regards to that. Michkov did not see the rest of the game. A lot of speculation. We will talk about that second period.
Right.
In our concernometer going.
I mean,
there,
when I saw the goal,
I could see there was some sort of justification there. Yeah,
I was watching at my son's rink while he was practicing, so there's no sound,
and
it was actually that was an ESPN Plus game, so I was actually watching a highlight on NHL Network.
Yeah.
I saw the replay and I'm like, oh God, where did the winger go? And then I realized who it was. I'm like,
oh God,
ooh, that's gonna be bad.
Yeah, that's gonna be.
I didn't even know about the blow up on the bench until later on.
Until later on, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he blew that.
There was also
it was an error.
There was also turnover. They're on the power play. He's carrying the puck up the boards. And I think was trying to do a saucer pass to his defenseman, gets stripped, puck the other way. He has all the open ice behind him, basically, which I thought, like, okay, turn the puck over, not back checking, all that kind of stuff. And I'll bet you there was that kind of a conversation going on here. And I'll bet you Meach was basically saying, hey, listen, I'm trying to anticipate. Torch is probably saying, no, I need you back on defense, that kind of a deal.
Well, we saw tonight, and we'll talk about it when we get to the Pittsburgh game. We saw what anticipation can get you.
Yes.
But you have to make the right call. You can't.
Yeah.
I mean, the one tonight against Pittsburgh, he deflected the play, saw Lawton had a chance to get there. And Lawton didn't actually, but it ended up being okay anyway. The one against the Islanders, there was a shot block, and I think he just took off without kind of assessing
what was really going on,
what the situation was.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the one tonight, he leaves, but at least Lawton is in a position to contest if the Penguin defenseman was able to get there.
Yeah.
The one against the Islanders, there was nobody there.
Yeah, there was nobody there. Yeah, exactly.
You have to. You don't need to turn him into a checking forward. You need to honor the at least basic responsibility of I am a winger. I need to cover the point man.
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah,
just a little bit.
But there is good news on the horizon, Steve. You go to the Utah Hockey Club. They have a horrible arena, by the way. That Delta Center. Oh God, that just needs a complete and total redo.
I hear the sightlines are terrible.
The sightlines are awful. Just think Barclays Center back in the day with the Islanders. Probably maybe even worse.
Back in the day, that was like 2 years ago.
Well, it's not quite throwbackish. I don't know what that throwback would be. Anyway, Flyers scored in the first period. Breaks their scoreless streak. Thank God. Abels with the goal 2 minutes into the game. So finally they break the streak. So yeah, that was
nice
almost,
to get it early.
Yeah, that was like 182 minutes of consecutive minutes not getting a goal. Finally get one in, but then Utah, with 1 second left, scores the overtime winner, 3-on-3. They are a really good hockey team. Torts really said it after the press conference. They play very good defense and transition offense very, very well. Former Arizona Coyotes, and they've been kind of building that way. You can definitely see it.
Yeah, they're young and building.
Yeah, for sure.
They've got some horses down there.
No doubt. But again, problems in the faceoff circle, 62% Utah. But again, we go back to you don't have Kuzmenko, you don't have Pelletier, you don't have Tippett on that team. So again, you're shorthanded. You're trying to scrape a battle and claw through this, basically. Give them credit, get the point on the road. Ideally, I wish we could have gotten 2. It's a heartbreaker to lose in that regard, but
yeah, Ayrton stole him a point.
Yeah, which out of your number one goaltender, I'm perfectly fine with that. Perfect, to be honest.
Yeah,
in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
So then finally, you come home against the Washington Capitals and the Great 8. He did score in this game, so he grows ever closer. As of the time of this recording, I don't know what's going on, but when he scored a goal, it was goal number 879 of his illustrious career, which I believe would only put him 15 behind Gretzky. I think Gretzky's 894. Right. So
yeah, he was 15 after he scored that goal. I don't know what he's done since.
Yeah. Remarkable. And clearly the better player than Crosby. Ha ha ha. I only say that because I respect him more than I do Crosby.
I understand that, but
it's not by much. Yeah. That'd be another one that I'd be glad to see him go once he retires.
Right.
But we should comment on Michkov's second goal. I'll throw it up here on screen. What a beautiful tic-tac-toe. And we needed a tic-tac-toe goal, Steve. It's been a long time since we had one of those.
Yeah.
And Abels with a great heads-up play. It was a tremendous 4-on-2. They had perfect numbers. It was great feed, good vision. And Abels just spots Michkov far post and puts it in. It was beautiful. I absolutely love those kinds of goals. And it's like, thank God we got one of those for the year.
Yeah, no, that was we were actually doing pre-production for our other show.
Yeah.
While I was watching that game, and I burst into, "Oh my God. Awesome!"
Yeah.
Because you're right. It's been a while since we've seen something that clean and pretty.
Yeah.
We don't get pretty goals around here very much.
No.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was good to see that. That was a really good highlight. But yeah, 4-3 there against Washington, and of course we just watched tonight Pittsburgh.
Oh well, wait! I didn't. The Washington game, they actually played well.
They did play well. Yeah,
they played well now, and Washington is the top team in the NHL.
Oh yeah.
They
had to come back to beat us, basically. So
they did.
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah.
And there's no shame in that losing that game.
No.
You played hard.
1 for 2 on the power play for the Flyers. Yeah. Not bad.
Yeah.
Dominated the face.
It was a good game. You lost the game, but it was a good game.
Yeah.
This is moral victories and inching closer to a higher draft pick.
Oh yeah. Exactly. One step at a time.
That's the type of game where it's okay because the way you played gives your players confidence.
Yeah. That you're hanging
and you're still kind of climbing the draft board.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're tanking, as some people like to talk about, you get your ass handed to you. Nobody feels good.
Yeah.
Even though you're climbing the ranking, you kind of want the best of both worlds. You want to feel good, but still climb the
exactly. That's why, and I loved when Torch talked about in his presser. He's like, how can I go into my locker room and say, you know what?
Yeah.
Don't give a half-hearted effort. Like, after everything that they have gone through together the entire year, you know what, boys? Okay, we're done for the year. Right. Well, let's just pack it up. Get out here. And then
like William Shatner in Airplane too. Where's he going to find a piece of metal in space? All right, close it up. We're done.
Yeah, we're done. Right. But then we have the Battle of Pennsylvania as we see the Pittsburgh Penguins for the first time in nearly, I think it's been almost 2 months or something like that. All the way back the last time we faced them.
Yeah, right before Christmas.
Right before Christmas.
Yep.
This time without Crosby, without Malkin.
Thank God.
And without, I think Brandon Rust, I think, was another guy who always seems to like score power play goals against us, I guess. So they were out there 3, and they were also coming off a back-to-back up in New York, which they played. I think it was the Rangers. I could be wrong, but
yes, it was the Rangers. Yep,
nice.
They beat the Rangers without Crosby and without Malkin.
Crazy, yeah. This was a very interesting contest. We come out with the win 3-2. It did not look good first period.
No, the first period was
god awful.
As good as they played against Washington, they played like crap. That first period,
it was literally
Pittsburgh
like
tonight.
10 to 12 minutes in the defensive zone run around.
Yeah.
I mean, it was bad. It was really bad.
I think not the shots, but the shot attempts.
Yeah.
I think we had 4 shot attempts, which is ridiculously low. It was 2 actual shots on goal.
Yeah.
1 miss and 1 block. And that was it. And I think Pittsburgh had 10 shots officially. I think they had 17, maybe more shot attempts.
Yeah. Then we had multiple blocks. Yeah, we had 34 block shots in the game to kind of give you an idea of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not good at all. But
I mean, we were up 1. Well, they tied it in the first period, right?
They tied it in the second, actually. It was
Eric
Carlson.
Okay, so we were up in the first period 1-0 because of the one single good defensive zone exit.
Yeah,
that Kuzmenko executed. Kuzmenko had a good game.
Very good. Good debut.
He had a good game.
Yeah,
but he executed the one decent defensive zone exit in that whole period.
Yeah,
the rest of it was just like I'm just flipping it out and hoping to God
somebody can get it.
Out there.
Yeah, exactly.
And
running around.
it didn't work.
Yeah, it wasn't working. Garnet Hathaway. Can we talk about his goal here real quick?
Hey, look, you can make fun of that shit all you want.
Lasered it, right?
Hustle.
I love it.
That's what you get goals through hustle. He
Damn
hustled,
straight.
He got a goal, even if it was off his crotch. I don't care.
That's how he scored his goal, right off of the crotch and into the net. I mean,
I couldn't actually tell.
I couldn't tell either. But yeah, I mean, what great hustle! It kind of reminded me a little bit of Mike Richards' goal in the playoffs against Montreal. You got to bust your ass to get down to that, and they're coming out and puck ricochets off your shin pad or whatever, off your dick, and it, bing, right in the net. Not exactly.
Richards had to work a little harder. He had to actually get the puck and put it in the net.
That was
one
beautiful.
Just went straight in.
Yeah, this one went straight in. So you get that, and then Konechny with a delayed penalty call. Nice goal at the top of really at the blue line.
So it doesn't count as a power play goal.
Does not, unfortunately. But then it was like about a minute later, there was a weird sequence when Kevin Hayes scored.
Yeah.
Like, I still don't quite understand. They were trying to say that it was goaltender interference. That was what was explained to Booch and Jim Jackson in the call.
Yeah, the first time I saw the replay, I wondered if he had it under his pad.
I thought that too.
And that Hayes kind of dug it out and then put it in, which it would obviously be illegal, but it must have still been
loose in there.
In there somewhere.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. So it was probably the right call.
Yeah. But it was weird. It was kind of like, and I can imagine like you're down there at the Wells Fargo Center. You're like, oh, there's no goal. They blew the whistle early, that kind of a deal. And it was like, oh, it's no goal. Sam covered it up.
The referee
did no announcement on it.
Explain it.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
He just said no goal.
Yeah.
So, we didn't know what the reason was.
Yeah.
And Mike Sullivan didn't look too happy about it. And I was like, screw you. I don't care what you think.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they challenged it. I'm like, what are you challenging? Because I thought, as Booch did, it was that he had the intent to blow the whistle.
Yeah.
Because the puck went in after the whistle. But if you are in the motion of, hey, I think the puck is frozen, I'm going to blow the whistle. Even if you haven't blown it yet, the thought process is that it should stop.
Yeah.
And I thought that's what it was, and that's not a challengeable thing. But to hear that it was goaltender interference, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
Whatever.
Yeah. But first regulation win against the Penguins in quite a while. I think the Penguins were 6-0-2.
Yeah.
Over the last 8 games against us. So without Crosby, without Malkin, okay, fine. But you pick up an all-important win heading into the Four Nations break. That's a good sign. That's a very good sign.
Mm-hmm.
They fought, they got back to it. They were, they had a much better second half of that game. You could see it start to turn a little bit in the second period, right?
Yes.
I mean, you start to see that a little bit, passing a little bit more.
Scoring goals off your dick. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, by hook or by crook, man. You know what I mean? By hook or by crook. That's all I got to say about that.
Sure.
You know, I get a notification every once in a while on my phone saying, "Hey, it's time to go to bed." I'm feeling it, man. But we're going to power through it.
Your phone has to tell you when to go to bed? Dude,
it does. It tells me to wind down. You know, I get older. You know, it's like, come on, I'm getting old. I got to wind down here.
Don't forget to breathe. Oh, yeah.
Anyway, second period, as we roll on here, our
long
traditional,
change.
Long change, which isn't good when you're running on fumes. But anyway, studs and duds, Steve, leading off with your stud over the last 2 weeks. There wasn't much to choose from, considering that we didn't score that many goals, but what?
Well, then I'm giving it to the goalie. No, I think Erson's played pretty well.
Yeah.
These last little few games. He was very good tonight. He was outstanding against Colorado.
Yep.
He got them the point in Utah.
Oh yeah.
I think he's gotten over the third injury. He's finally put together a string of games that I think he's played. Did he play in that Jersey 5-0 game?
He did. He got pulled.
He did. So yeah, that's a clunker, but he rebounded, I think, strong.
Oh yeah.
From that.
Yeah.
And so that's good to see.
Yeah.
And we don't have to run him into the ground like we did last year. And like
we have
I said,
capable backup. Yep.
Capable backups. He'll go into the Four Nations, but even if he plays, it's not going to be a condensed schedule. So that'll be spread out. So I'm really pleased with where he's at the moment. I think the goaltending, I think, has stabilized and is not costing us games actively. Erson is a huge part of that.
Yeah.
And I think if he can hold that together the last 25 games of the season, hopefully we'll get some good, decent results out of it.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. Great pick this week for that. Mine, with not much offense going around, there was one bright spot, and it was my boy. Tyson Forrester had a very good last couple of games, even though, like I said, 3 games in a row you're shut out. You're not doing much at all. But he has really shown to me, he continues to make great strides. Didn't score tonight, but prior to that, had a goal against Utah, had a goal against Washington. That Washington goal was a power play goal. He's averaging just a little under 22, 24 shifts a game. He's playing very well along the wall. He's making.
That was his strength last year. And
yeah,
he's gotten back to it.
Yeah, he's gotten back to it. He's making very, very good strides. I love what I'm seeing out of him. So far this year, 15 goals, 25 points. He is 5th on the team in that, so he is making very, very good strides. I think
he should hit 20 again.
He should have 20 again, which I have no problem with that. I think that's really, really good. I think if he could get to if he could crack more than 20, if he gets in the low 20s, 22 goals, it's a great springboard for his 4th year in the league. So
remember when we used to have 6 or 7 20-goal scorers on the team?
No,
back in the day. And Matt Reed was one of them.
I thought you were talking about when it was the 1980s when the Flyers were really good and they had all kinds of 20-goal scorers.
Oh no,
we had all over the place.
We had as recently as 2012.
Yeah,
that era. I'm pretty sure we had a number of 20-goal scorers.
Oh yeah,
on the team.
Oh yeah, oh for sure. Yeah, absolutely. But I'm very pleased with those. Yeah, well, they'll hopefully be coming back in the next couple of years. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But yeah, I'm really liking what I'm seeing out of Forrester, and a couple weeks off heading into the break, you come back, you're ready to go against Edmonton. We'll see how he does the last part of the year. That being said, though, on the dud side of the aisle, when you don't score goals in 3 consecutive games, you're not doing very good. Now, granted, you were shorthanded. I will say that. You were shorthanded. Traded 2 forwards away. You didn't get the 2 forwards back because of paperwork. Canadian paperwork. That's an oxymoron. Anyway.
Put the duh in Canada.
Yep. Had to do that again, sorry. But yeah.
Well, we don't know whose paperwork it is, but
yeah. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, you got to do better than that, obviously. And granted, it was a difficult stretch, but yeah, I mean, yeah.
In fairness, the strategy for those games was to have the other team score -1 goals. So they would have won.
Can you
but
imagine?
Then they realized that's physically impossible. So
every time you hit the above net, that's -1. Every
Right.
time the puck gets deflected in the net above, that's -1. That'd be great.
Should be.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think we just hit on something. We should have negative goal scoring.
Can you imagine?
Like, that would be awesome.
That would be amazing. Yeah. And every goal would be scored like 2 points or something like that, maybe, or something like that. We'll have to figure that out. Yeah, maybe, in the North Korean way of doing it, scoring goals. Who knows? Kim Jong-il changes all the scoring for basketball. Why not for hockey?
Right.
In any event, before we go down the communist road, Steve, your dud. I'm curious. I am very curious. Who is your dud here? Because you weren't exactly clear here in the pre-production. You kept me in the dark.
Go ahead. Tell the people what the outline says.
The outline says somebody. Well, last time I checked, I looked at the roster. There isn't anybody named somebody on the team. So please elaborate.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. Well, somebody is, because somebody is responsible.
Yes.
For the fact that the 2 guys we traded for, one of them just played for the first time tonight, a week after the trade, and the other one still hasn't been able to play for the team.
Yeah.
I don't know who that somebody is. That somebody is either a Canadian or a U.S. bureaucrat who's effing up the paperwork. I know. I'm not blaming the Flyers. I'm sure they're doing what they need to do on their end. I'm sure it's somebody on the government end, because
maybe it might be Justin Trudeau. Who knows? Screwing us over. Yeah.
Weasel.
Yeah.
Loser. Also, whoever runs the weather for screwing the flight the night we played Washington, which meant that Kuzmenko and Peltier got there like second period.
Yeah.
And had to hang out with Briere and Jonesy instead of actually being on the ice.
Yeah.
So that cost us offense in Colorado. We still had to play shorthanded in Utah. We still had to play shorthanded against Washington.
Yeah.
Somebody is at fault. I don't know who that is, but somebody is my dud, because they effed us for a whole week.
I love it. That's a great dud.
I told you there was a method to my madness.
There was a method to the madness, and I'm glad you mentioned it. So with that now out of our system, Steve, let's go into our old concernometer as we head into the Four Nations break, bud.
I am concerned about the somebody.
I am concerned about that. That is a very high 8. Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Let's talk about this offense here that we're finding. Now, they are making strides, I should say. They had 2 back-to-back games the last part of this schedule with Washington and Pittsburgh. We scored 3 goals. That's a good sign. But before that, shut out 3 consecutive games. How concerned are you?
Well, no, they got 2 in Utah.
Oh, they got 2 in Utah. That's right. How concerned are you with the performance of the offense? Scale of 1 to 10, of course. 1 being not concerned at all. 10 being very concerned. Oh my God, everything's on fire.
I'm at a 5.
5. Okay.
Yeah, admittedly, it was a bad stretch, but we all know the reality of everything we just talked about. And it's, teams go through dry spells, maybe not as bad as this 3 consecutive scoreless games, but you go through dry spells during the course of a season, and they've certainly come back and had 8 goals in the last 3 games. So I'm not going to beat them up for offense. No. This team was going to struggle offensively anyway. So I'm not overly concerned about it.
Okay. Yeah, that's about, I guess that would be the same.
And when your power play sucks, you're not going to get the easy ones.
Yeah,
that's just the way it is.
Yeah. 5 for me as well. Not exactly ideal when I was reading that, the Flyers set a record in, franchise history for 3 consecutive games where they didn't score a goal. And I was like, oh boy. Oh boy. We're hitting rock bottom faster than I thought. But to their credit, coming back, they're able to get the goals now. They're starting to, be a little bit more competitive in the games. obviously a very, very good sign. So yeah, 5 for me in that regard.
And then again, look at who you were playing. Okay,
Yeah.
you played New Jersey; they're a
high-end team.
You played New York, who it's always the games against the Islanders are just a slog anyway,
and so annoying. Yeah,
very and so annoying.
Yeah.
Anders Lee needs to be punched in the face repeatedly. It was inevitable that they were going to get shut out at some point by the Islanders, and Colorado is one of the top teams in the league. So
I was going to say, like, even Cal Clutterbuck was a guy that you would love to punch in the face. I remember playing.
Is he even still there?
I don't know. I don't care, to be perfectly honest. I'm just saying.
Also, question.
Yeah,
because I was thinking about it as I was watching the Penguins game tonight. Did Jeff Carter officially retire?
Oh yeah, yeah,
okay.
He's officially done. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I thought so, but I couldn't remember.
Cal Clutterbuck is not on the New York Islanders roster, so I'm assuming he's done. Yeah, which is good riddance because I didn't like him. He paired with Anders Lee, and he was annoying. So very good. Towards a Michkov, Mr. Murray, our head coach once again having another very animated conversation with our very young forward here, 20-year-old. And that led to essentially not necessarily wasn't responsible for the overall benching we talked about in the first period. That really it was, his play. He was kind of anticipating things that he really shouldn't have been anticipating. Just turning the puck over. How concerned are you in regards to this relationship between the two? Yeah, I'm at a 1. I'm at a 1.
Yeah.
Really.
Look, the real reason for the benching wasn't actually the play. It's that in that argument, he apparently was not taking accountability. And if you recall, earlier in the season, one of the things they wanted him to work on was when to leave the zone and when not to.
Yeah.
Leaving early, we don't need Pavel Bure just coasting along the blue line, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is not unlike anything he's done with other players.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you remember, Scott Lawton got benched. I think it was the first Colorado game.
Yeah.
When they harped on don't turn the puck over in the middle of the ice, and Colorado, I don't think they scored, but the first time Lawton was on the ice, he put it right to the middle, and he sat.
Yeah.
And then you had Joel Farabee did something early on that they had talked to him about, and they benched him for an entire game.
Mm-hmm.
You had Bobby Brink has sat for periods at a time.
Morgan Frost did the same thing.
Morgan Frost. It's not anything he's doing differently, and Michkov shouldn't be treated differently than anybody else.
Right.
Now, so the reason given for the benching was the failure to be accountable.
Mm-hmm.
If he would have just said, yeah, you know what, you're right. I messed up. I shouldn't have left the zone when I did. I should have made sure we had puck possession before I took off.
Yep.
But instead he shouted back, which Torts apparently actually doesn't necessarily have a problem with.
No.
He likes guys to be, he'd rather them have juice and have to calm them down rather than have to draw it out of them.
Oh, yeah.
And he even said in a press conference a couple of days ago, he's like, you know what, if I go back in my head, I probably should have played him in the third period.
Yeah.
That
says a lot.
Set him at the end of the second.
Now that that says an awful lot about that relationship. You don't say that unless there's something really wrong where the concern for the two of us would be higher, right? I mean, at the end of the day.
Right.
So that's a good sign. It's like, I should have had him out there.
Yeah, and if you look at his ice time in the game right after, which I guess was the Colorado game, he played like 16, 17 minutes.
Right back to what he was doing before.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So,
oh, by the way, I saw a thing that showed like superstar players in their first year. Michkov is actually getting more average ice time than a lot of them did.
Which, to me, I'm loving. I'm loving that. It's like I want him to maximize it, and I get that this is a very unusual schedule, and I'm sure that's now like in his mind. It's like, okay, every 4 years I got to worry maybe something in that regard. But what a great learning experience for this kid. I remember when he was way back in November when they went down and did the whole South Florida trip, and how he was put in the skybox, alongside Briere or whatever, and it was literally like, oh my God, this, what the hell is Tortorella doing? Sky is falling. What the hell? And I'm thinking to myself, listen, he's probably just like, watch this guy, watch that guy, look at what they're doing. Here's what you have to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And look
And
what
he
he's
hadn't
doing
been playing
now.
well before that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, yeah, 1, 2, that's
yeah.
perfect. Yeah, yeah. A little bit more concerning, though, is our playoff prospects, buddy. To be honest with you, I don't think this is going to be a playoff year. And I don't think we're going to have a special playoff. Yeah, I'd probably 8 as well.
We're not that far out of a spot, but the number of teams between us, and just the overall way that everybody in the East, and that could work to your advantage. Everybody in the East could fall off a cliff, or they could get hot. Some could get hot, some could fall off a cliff. It's so jumbled.
Yeah. I mean,
the possibility still exists, but there's a lot of teams you're going to have to climb over.
You really have to get some breaks, because you could. I mean, I don't know about you, Steve. I could think this team is probably 3 players away maximum from really trying to compete for the playoffs, like on a consistent basis. There are a few pieces away from really being like that can elevate the
a first line center, a top pair D, at least
solid, good goaltending. Not saying that Erson's not. I'm just saying like a guy that could save a 9-10 percentage, whereas that Erson is giving you 890 right now.
I think you could even fight for the playoffs with Erson. The third player you need is probably another top 6 forward.
But that's not.
But yeah, you're right. I think.
Yeah, well, I would hope I am. Just
but they're not coming this year.
But they're not coming this year. No, yeah, they are not.
Part of the trade that we talked about in the emergency podcast frees up some space. Maybe you can pursue something. I'm thinking they're not actually going to hit free agency probably till one more summer. I think the draft, focusing on the draft, maybe bringing in somebody via trade this summer could be in the works. Free agency is probably not till 2 summers from now.
Real quick, then, let me ask you this. Do you think Briere makes another move prior to the trade deadline?
If he does, I'm thinking it's just moving somebody out.
And I can't see anybody right now that is warning of like, okay, we got to get rid of this guy.
Oh, there's nobody that you absolutely have to get rid of.
Yeah. There isn't a Sean Walker, but yeah.
No. Yeah. But could you move Risto for something valuable? Probably. Could you move Lawton for something valuable? Probably. But there's no pressing need to get rid of them at the trade deadline.
Yeah. I would want to keep Risto around, though, just because of his size. I think you said something in our last podcast that was so telling.
Yeah.
And it was evident tonight. Emil Andre and Jamie Drysdale need to get some pounds on them, dude, because they were getting.
No, Andre threw a nice hit on
nice
hit,
yes.
out of the zone.
But it's a bigger issue, obviously. We need size on the defense, really.
Yeah, I'm not saying they have to put the pounds on. I just think you need some guys back there who are a little bigger, who can throw their weight around to give them some space.
Yeah,
is the reality of it. But I don't. That's to be settled down the road. There's nothing we're doing about it now. Yeah. But if somebody offered you a first round pick for Ristolainen, especially if it's this year,
you take the deal.
I probably would.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if they're not requiring us to retain any salary, which I don't think Briere is willing to do with anybody at this point, because we're trying to get rid of the.
You're trying to lower the cap. Yeah, trying to make sure you have enough cap space for next year. Yeah.
But the upshot is, as far as our playoff prospects, it's looking bleaker and bleaker as we go on. Now, maybe this 2 weeks off helps energize, but a lot of other teams are going to get the same benefit too.
Yeah. And they're going to be playing every other night like we are. So it's going to be hard. It's going to be very hard.
Yeah.
You know, it's nights like this, Steve, that I'm glad I didn't have a cup of coffee. Can you imagine? Like, if I were bouncing off the walls doing this podcast.
We just can't have that. No.
I wouldn't be able to get to sleep. And then there's the Super Bowl tomorrow. Oh, my God. I'm going to be so glad I'm going to get some sleep after this is all over. Oh, goodness. Anyway, close out our 10th episode here of Men in Orange and Black. We look ahead to the Four Nations tournament. Steve, they're going to be playing this. It looks like it's going to be an awesome round-robin tournament. Basically, each team plays the others, I think it's 3 games. and the top two move on to a championship final at the end of it. What are your initial thoughts on all this? I mean, I'm not so sure I'm going to be watching any of the games.
Yeah, me neither.
You know?
But I don't know. If
hoping
there's
for
nothing
Team
else on,
USA
maybe
to
I'll
win.
flip it on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I obviously want
to
US to win.
Yeah,
obviously.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I'm going to watch.
I would love to see Canada eliminated. That would be tremendous. You know, especially after the World Juniors. It's just wonderful.
Query. I mean, because Crosby didn't play tonight. He didn't play last night. He practiced today, but is he going to play?
That's the rumor. It's upper body injury, according to the Penguins. So does that mean he has a concussion? Does that mean that he has, you know, something else going on there? Or does that mean he's an idiot? Doesn't want to play? I don't know. You know, who knows? Nor do I care because I don't want him playing.
Canada has enough firepower up front that they don't actually need him. But
yeah. But for once, we get to root for Austin Matthews. That's a good sign. You know, I mean,
sure,
can't go wrong with like one of the greatest goal scorers right now going on in the NHL as of this time for sure.
You know, it's funny. I think when you look at the rosters of Canada and the U.S., I think Canada obviously has more firepower in the forwards.
Mm-hmm.
We've got more annoying forwards.
Oh yeah,
the Kachuk brothers. But I think our defense and our goaltending is actually stronger than Canada's.
Yeah.
Because especially the goaltending. The goaltending on Canada, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
Bennington, our goaltenders.
Yeah, Bennington is Team Canada. Aiden Hill of the Vegas Golden Knights, and Sam Montembeault. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that name. I probably am. But I don't care because it's Team Canada. Yeah, those are the.
Now look at our goalies.
By the way, Alex Pietrangelo withdrew from the tournament.
He did
basically.
And he's not injured because I saw highlights of him, or not, I saw him playing against Boston this afternoon. So
yeah. So we have Connor Hellebuck, who's having a tremendous season for the Winnipeg Jets. Yeah. Jake Ottinger, who's also a tremendous goaltender for the Dallas Stars, and one guy who's overrated, Jeremy Swayman of the Boston Bruins, but
he's not going to see the ice.
He's not going to see the ice. Yeah, exactly. But you got both Kachuk brothers up there. You got Jack Eichel, Jake Gensel, Jack Hughes, Chris Kreider, Austin Matthews. I mean, you have a pretty loaded team up there on the forwards.
Yeah, but Canada's more loaded on forwards. But I think, again, goaltending and defense are far and away.
Unfortunately, though, we have your boy Charlie McAvoy on the team there, bud. Yeah, the guy who you called, what was it? The perfect New England prep school guy that you want to punch right in the face? Yeah, prep school prick.
Yeah.
So I absolutely love that. That was great.
McAvoy. He belongs in that movie, The Departed.
Exactly. Oh, goodness.
Microprocesses.
No Russian team here. Canada,
Nope.
Finland, Sweden, and the United States. Interestingly enough. It'd be interesting. Be very interesting to see what how this all translates. Any idea of a winner? Obviously, we want Team USA to win, but on paper, who do you think is the best team? Real quick.
I don't know. I feel like it's setting up to be Canada and the U.S. in the final.
I think so too.
But I wouldn't be shocked if one of Sweden or Finland
steals a victory in there.
Steals a victory in there and pulls an upset and gets to the championship game.
I could see it.
They always do.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be great if they did over Canada, the final game, and Canada would lose their damn minds? It would be just awesome. But yeah, to find, and then obviously to close this whole thing out, why don't we talk a little bit about the quarter century team that the Flyers and really every NHL hockey team unveiled, with the exception, I think, of Seattle and somebody else.
Well,
Vegas Golden Knights, because they weren't around for a quarter century.
No, they weren't. They don't deserve it.
No, they don't deserve it. But we have a first and a second team, Steve. Our first team forwards for the Flyers quarter century: Simone Gagne, Claude Giroux, Mike Richards. That is one hell of a line right there on the forward, with your defense being a defense pair of Eric Desjardins, my boy, I love that guy, Desjardins, and Kimmo Timonen on defense.
Mm-hmm.
and the lunatic fringe Roman Czechmanic as your goaltender.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Yeah. What do you think in regards to the first team forward? Hell of a line, right?
I'll talk. Get through the second team too.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Second team behind them is Danny Briere, Sean Couturier, and Jacob Voracek, with your defense pair of Chris Pronger and Ivan Provorov. And your backup or second team goaltender would be Brian Boucher. So that is your Philadelphia Flyers quarter century team, first and second teams there. Steve, let's go over the first team. What do you think of the forward lines there, bud? Gagne, Giroux, and Richards. Oh my, right?
I am absolutely okay with Giroux and Gagne being there.
Richards, though, I sense a problem in your head.
Well, part of the issue is I feel like there are also other guys who could have been in that spot or in the, I can't say it's wrong to put Richards in one of the top two forward groups.
Okay.
Maybe not first, maybe second. The other one you said had Briere, Voracek, and Couturier, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
I think Voracek absolutely deserves to be there. He had an extended run with us.
Long
put up
time.
A lot of points playing alongside Giroux.
Yep.
Giroux is the best player we've had the last 25 years.
Easily since Lindros, yep.
And Gagne was one of the most clutch Flyers of all time.
Great goal scorer, yeah.
But I think Briere probably deserves to be there. Couturier's had a very long run, so I can't really complain about that. But I'm also thinking, like, the quarter century goes from 2000 to 25. You got guys like Keith Primo,
I was going to say,
who were in there, and he had some huge moments in this team early part of the quarter century. John LeClaire, probably his best years were in the 90s, but he was still here. Mark Recchi, kind of similar. Wayne Simmons had a run
the Wayne
there.
train. Yeah, the Wayne train.
Scott Hartnell.
Yeah.
Had a nice long run. And,
he did. Yeah.
He had a couple 30-goal seasons in there. Was big in the playoffs. So you could go a bunch of different ways with the forwards. I guess I can't really complain about what they did.
Yeah.
The defense, Desjardins and Timonen, I'm absolutely 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I could probably make an argument that, if it was Desjardins in the 90s, this would be probably the best defensive pair, for sure. But we're talking quarter century.
He was still good.
He was still pretty good. Yeah, 2000, 2001, too. Yeah.
Yeah, he and Timonen absolutely deserve to be there.
Yeah.
Pronger is interesting because he didn't play that long.
Couple seasons, I believe.
He was parts of 3 seasons. I mean, he played the full season after he got traded here, and then he had back problems the second season, and then the third season was when he got hit in the eye.
And ended his career. Yeah.
Although I worried with his back how much longer he was going to last anyway.
Yeah.
On the other hand, though, Pronger is the alpha defenseman that as good as Desjardins and Timonen are, and they're very good top pair defensemen, they are not like game-changing defensemen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Pronger was a game-changing defenseman.
Yeah,
a guy like Victor Hedman, Zach Werenski, Cale Makar, they are game-changing defensemen.
What do you think about Provorov? It's an interesting selection there, I think, for the second team. Now, he did, I think, coming out of juniors, it was definitely the right pick, and he certainly looked the part early on in his career. I kept thinking Norris Trophy candidate. Down the road, I could see it.
I wonder a little bit with him.
Yeah.
We talk about letting a guy go down to the minors or stay in juniors or stay in college, whatever, to work on their game, develop. And you hear all the time about maybe somebody got rushed.
Do you think that was the case?
Development. Yeah. I wonder because he made the jump direct.
Pretty quickly.
defensemen take longer to develop than
Mhm.
forwards do. And he was here, I think, at 19.
Yeah.
Right out of juniors.
Right
he
out
made
of
the
juniors.
team.
Yeah.
So he didn't go back
His
for
debut,
his,
I
final
think.
year.
Yeah, his debut, I think, was against in Chicago, and I remember.
Well, he started the season.
Yeah.
He started the season with the club because I remember him and Konechny, I think, both made it at the same time.
Yeah.
And he looked the part for a little while, but I wonder if throwing him into the fray that early and counting on him as they did that early may have stunted. You've never heard of, well, that he spent way too long in the minors. That's never a thing.
That's never a thing. Yeah.
But you rushed a guy, and I wonder if Provorov was a rushed
Probably.
guy.
Yeah, probably.
Now,
maybe of the last vestiges of trying to get to the playoffs, you get this young defenseman in there, and maybe he logs 15 to 17 to 19 minutes a game. But you're asking him to come in.
It's a question we'll never have answered.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Then the question becomes, who do you put in Provorov's place? If you assume Pronger stays, despite the short length, because he absolutely made a huge difference for this team.
I really don't know who you put in there. Yeah.
I thought the one name that came to my mind was probably Braden Coburn.
Yeah.
Because he had a lengthy stay here with Timonen.
That's valid.
He was really good when he first got here. I had a problem at the end, and it wasn't really with him personally. It was, this is when I started to really hate analytics. Because toward the end of his career as a Flyer, Braden Coburn was, everybody in the analytics world was like, oh, Braden Coburn has these great analytical numbers. And I'm watching and I'm like, he is flat out sucking.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And so the eye test versus the analytics didn't match up for me.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets traded to Tampa Bay, and I see the Tampa Bay playoff run that year. Every time I see Tampa Bay get scored on, who's on the ice? Braden Coburn.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Braden Coburn to me was the poster child for why I hate analytics. But I can't deny that his initial years here, he was a good defenseman paired with Timonen. For the 08 playoff run, for the 10 playoff run.
He was an absolute steal when we traded for him. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We traded, the aging...
Zhitnik, wasn't it?
Zhitnik.
Yeah, Alexei Zhitnik, yeah.
Yeah. So it was a great acquisition.
Yeah.
So he's the only one... I mean, you could say maybe Gostisbehere.
But kind of
like two defensemen that were around for a while that I would think you'd replace Provorov.
Yeah, kind of like Provorov. You could say that maybe Shane was brought up a little bit too quickly. Who knows? I don't know the answer to that question.
I don't think Gostisbehere.
Yeah,
he's like a Mike Green to me. He's never going to be somebody you can count on defensively.
Yeah.
He's always going to be an offensive-minded defenseman that's going to be vulnerable to.
Oh yeah,
defensive lapses.
The defensive breakdowns and stuff like that. Yeah.
So, maybe replace Provorov with Coburn, but other than that, I don't really know who you could say was better and had a long enough tenure with the team that you could throw him in there.
Look at goaltenders real quick before we get out of here. Czechmonic, first team.
I know you hate Czechmonic.
I only hate him because Desjardins hated him, and justifiably so. But listen, he statistically speaking was the best goaltender they've had in quite some time.
Yeah.
Now, the problem was we didn't surround him with really good offense back in the day. No. And so whenever he would give up a goal, it was always a backbreaker. You could look to that Ottawa quarterfinal series, I think it was in 2002 or 3. I know you'll get that date right. That was horrible. That was probably the worst playoff series the Flyers have ever played in their franchise history. But it wasn't for the fault of the goaltender. Goaltender was making all the saves that he was supposed to make. Nobody was scoring. And it's well, you can't, at the end of the day, it's kind of like, give me a break here. But he got a lot of flack, I think, just because he gave up those goals. They were always be in the third period. And then once that happened, it was back in those days. It was a shell. You weren't getting any pucks through. Everybody was playing defense really, really well. So I feel bad for him.
Statistically, you're right. He was good, but there were personality clashes.
Yeah.
Boucher is there, but I don't know that he had really long stints in the quarter century either.
He was in and out.
Yeah. Because he lost his job to Czechmonic.
Yep.
The year after they made that run to the Eastern Conference Final.
Left the Flyers, but then came back.
Came back for 09-10. And then was back the next season. But really, other than that, I mean, goaltending wise, you've got radioactive Carter Hart, so that's not going anywhere. But he also he was never part of a team that really did anything. So
right.
You can kind of shove that aside.
COVID year, but that, come on, give me a break with that, right?
Steve Mason probably is the longest tenured.
Probably.
After that. And actually didn't play poorly.
I didn't play poorly.
He didn't really have many signature moments to me.
No.
But he was fine. I mean, he was a perfectly capable goaltender.
Yeah. And I think he came in after Brizgalov, if I remember right.
Yes.
It was after Brizgalov.
We're certainly not putting Briz up there.
No.
No.
I hope he's built that rocket is going to Mars, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. Bob wasn't here long enough. Ash didn't play long enough.
Ash was more famous for the 2x4s than his pads.
No, that's Garth Snow.
It's Garth Snow. That's right.
Yeah.
Didn't Ash have something funny with his pads, though?
No.
Oh, I could have sworn it.
But
I could have sworn
he didn't. I'm trying to think who else were the goaltenders. Marty Biron. Wasn't long enough. Not long enough. He had a nice run in 08, but not a long enough tenure with the team.
Yeah.
We're not giving it to Michael Layton.
Could have stopped us to a Stanley Cup, though, if we had won against Chicago. We almost did. Though.
Almost.
Yeah.
So throw Steve Mason in there. But other than that, you probably got it right.
But most likely, yeah. And it just goes to show you that the problem has always been goaltender for the Flyers. At the end of the day, there hasn't been that one signature guy that has stayed the course of time and say, like, you know what? Okay, this guy for 10 plus years. We don't have a Henrik Lundqvist or something like that. But they're dime a dozen, to be honest with you.
2010, you beat Chicago if you have the Steve Mason that we had in 2014, right? If you had the Robert Esch we had in 2000.
Certainly it goes to a game 7. Yeah.
When we've gotten far in the playoffs other years, the goaltending was not to blame. Boucher was not to blame for 2000. Esch was not to blame for 2004.
Mm-hmm.
Layton gives up Layton played poorly in the Stanley Cup final. So that does kind of lay on him.
Mm-hmm.
Although he gets you there. Right?
Yeah.
He didn't he shut out Montreal a bunch of times?
He was shut out Montreal. He also, I believe, came in.
It was game 7.
Game 7 against Boston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But aside from that, the goaltending in deep playoff runs was not the problem.
Yeah.
In 2010, you win the cup because you didn't need a Hall of Fame goalie to beat that Chicago Blackhawk team.
You just need a hot one.
It's just the alignment of the stars was not right. Mason was too far before Mason, too far after Esch or Boucher or Biron. So it's unfortunate, but
2 games away from the Stanley Cup final. Closest they've ever been since the 87 Cup final against Edmonton when they were 1 game away.
If Jeff Carter finds the net in game 6, we're not talking about the Patrick Kane goal.
Yeah. So many what ifs. I know it just kills you sometimes, but yeah. So that's our thoughts on the quarter century. I thought it was a decent selection. Some that we were like, okay.
Yeah, a couple like questionable, but when you go back and dig, the forwards, there's a lot to pick from, so that's harder to kind of do. But the defense,
no complaints.
I think other than Provorov, you got to think there's only one or two other guys who might have fit in there, and then the goalies, it's like, So
we'll have to see, but yeah.
But
yeah, for now though, that concludes episode number 10 of the Men in Orange and Black. Much to our happiness, because now that means we can get to go to sleep. Thank God.
Sleep.
Woo!
Oh, wait,
Join us though in 2 weeks' time, which would be, I believe, February 27th. We will come back off Four Nations. We'll have the Edmonton game reviewed by the time we get there, but we won't have the Penguins game. That will have to come in later than that, because when we record, we do it on Sundays. It's kind of a weird kind of a schedule.
Or more because screw the Penguins.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we could just yell at them.
And for our British watchers.
There you go. But in the meantime, why don't you just do us a huge favor? We really appreciate it. If you like the video, hit the subscribe button. Go ahead and share that our episodes as well. We really do appreciate it. Get the word out for all the Flyers fans that are out there. And again, like I said, join us in 2 weeks' time. Like I said, we'll talk over Four Nations, what happened. Maybe even do a studs and does of the Four Nations. Maybe. We'll see. But, Steve, do you have anything final to say before we get out of here, or are you just like dead tired like me?
I was just checking to see, since we went so long, with how the Islander and Sabres game ended. Just out of morbid curiosity.
Yeah. And?
Hang on.
No, we're waiting.
Let's see. So.
Yep. Oh. Oh.
Come on.
Oh.
God, it's got to be like right at the end. What the Minnesota beat the Islanders and Nashville beat the Sabres. So both losses, although Buffalo is behind us, so they don't really matter.
Well, yeah, they haven't mattered in.
It doesn't matter what your Buffalo is.
Yeah, it doesn't matter since they haven't mattered in 14 years. Anyway, for Steve, I am Matt. Let's go Flyers.